As always, thanks for taking the time. Before we dive in, I have to ask, have you gotten used to that new added title, Championship Lakers, just yet?
Allie, first, good to see you. Definitely not used to it, and every time I hear it, still so grateful. I mean, it's. I know we're on Zoom right now, but just to see the banners in the office every day, and we were meeting with Dennis Schroder, who manages our building, and we were trying to figure out how to put the next one up, to put 17 up in the rafters, and it takes a lot of work. And she said to me, "That's a good problem to have. We'll figure it out."
No doubt that it is. And I know it's kept you guys very motivated. So let's just dive in with that, if you will. Before the draft, Rob, and free agency, you guys made a splash, trading Danny Green, of course, in your first round pick to OKC for Dennis Schroder. What do you like, Rob, about Schroder and what he will bring to your championship team?
Yeah, I think listen, after you win a championship, the trap is complacency. I think you don't want to just fall into the trap that other teams aren't going to be making moves to get better and to try to, when you win a championship, I think the other 29 teams are saying, okay, how do we dethrone them? How do we attack the Lakers? And I think part of our goal is to get better, is to not be complacent. I think it's always a balancing act. You want to keep the core complexity of your team together, but if there's ways around the edges to make improvements, of course you seize those opportunities. And I think the hallmark of the Lakers in the bubble was we were a tenacious, competitive, nasty, defensive-minded, physical team. And Dennis Schroder is a player that we feel like shares those qualities. He's a player that other teams hate to play against, but the team that has him and the teammates on his team love to play with him. And it's because he plays with a nasty edge, with a confidence. And we've tracked him for some time. I don't think that trades are anything that are reactive or just done in a moment. This is a player we've had an eye on for a while, tried to acquire him at the trade deadline, and we're really excited when it worked out once the trade moratorium was lifted to add him to our team.
And so, of course, because you guys did your work early, I have to ask, because you know how exciting it is for so many come draft night. But for you guys, what was it like to then not have a pick? Pretty quiet?
I think our approach over the last 2-3 years is to be really methodical and to not get reactionary. And I think what you find out in the draft room on draft night is it's easy to start getting in a reactive framework where if other teams start doing things, you want to just jump in and react. But that just hasn't really been the Lakers playbook. We want to stay very detailed and methodical and thoughtful in our approach. And so, yeah, it was a quiet draft night for us, but that was by design. We did our work early. I think when the trade moratorium lifted, we were one of the first trades, and we were super excited. Danny Green was a wonderful part of our championship team and roster last year, and we wish him nothing but the best. And we're so excited we had him for a year, and that he's able to have a Lakers ring on his finger and be a part of our history. But we just felt like this was a way to upgrade our roster to give us another playmaker with the ball that can score. And also is just a tenacious defender, really checks all the boxes of things we were trying to address, at that position.
And so as your work, Rob, continues, you guys have so many free agents on last year's team. You know who they are. First, how many of the 5 players that have options have already informed you of their decision on next season?
Yeah, that stuff, Allie, is rolling out as we speak. I mean, literally kind of getting phone calls and texts as we speak. But I think one of the things that was great about our roster last year is that we had guys who were stars in their role. Obviously, when you have unicorns like LeBron and AD, it's really important for the cast and the pieces around them to star in their roles. I don't like using the term role player without the word star attached to it because it feels demeaning. But if you look across our roster at, Rondo and Caruso and KCP and Dwight and JaVale, and, I could just go on and on, Markieff, Kuz, just with the list of guys who were stars in their roles. And I think the roster we have next year, our goal is to have similar guys that just can play with that mindset. And continuity is part of that. Of course, this team was incredibly together in the bubble. I think that was such a mental grind for 100 days to be in a medical bubble and away from friends and family, that the team that had the best chemistry was going to have an advantage, and I felt like that was us. Our guys just love playing together. They love being together, and so we'd like to keep our core as intact as possible.
And it's a group that, as we started this conversation, really epitomized what you mentioned right at the top, Rob. Complacency and avoiding that. And you and your staff usually have a plan A, B, and C going into this time of year. So with so many free agents, I have to ask, do you have a plan X, Y, and Z as well?
Yeah, we talked again, I think in the bubble, I remember doing an interview where we talked about how, of course, we're so impacted by the Mamba mentality. And, the one great thing about Kobe is in the offseason, he knew that the competition would take away his strength. And so he would always set a goal in the offseason to develop counters, to change things up and to have a plan B and to have a plan C. And so, of course, part of our methodical planning over the last few months has prepared us for this free agency period and this draft period. And we have, counter moves. If an opponent makes this move, then we'll look at that and see if we need to make an adjustment. But we do have a chessboard with multiple options, and we won't just get locked into thinking that we can just rest on our laurels and rest on history. We've got to be just as aggressive in putting this team together for next year.
Because just as much as you have to be aggressive putting the team together, the schedule is going to be aggressive coming right at us very soon. One final point. The NBA announced, of course, that it will be a 72-game regular season, keeping much of the normal schedule intact, just the season starting and ending a little later. How do you think it will play out with teams in their home arenas?
I think first it's easy to put trust in Adam Silver and Michelle Roberts in terms of the NBA and the union. They've done such a wonderful job putting the safety of the players and the teams and fans, if they're allowed back in first. So we all have a level of confidence in the protocol and the programs that the league puts in place. I think that hope was a big word to get to the bubble and to get to the end and crown a champion. And our next wave of hope is when it's safe and secure to do so, is to get fans back in the building. I think Lakers Nation, Lakers fans, they stand with no comparison in their passion and their love for this team. And we would love, if we get an opportunity to defend our title and go to number 18, we would certainly love for that to be in front of our Lakers fans. They're our fuel. Even when we were in the bubble and they weren't there, they were still there in spirit. So we're excited about that time when they come back.
You guys have certainly made them all very proud. Rob, as always, thank you for taking the time. We look forward to seeing how everything unfolds. But most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy.
Valley, great work, and hope to see you in person at a game soon and get this thing kicked off here in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Appreciate the time.
Take care.
Dennis Schroder responding to LeBron's Instagram story, where LeBron welcomed him, saying a flat-out dog added to a pack of them. Schroder responded, "Let's get it, Brody." Now, with the deal finalized, Lakers general manager and VP of basketball operations Rob Pelinka discussed bringing Dennis on board.
Dennis is a player that other teams hate to play against, but his teammates love to play with, because he has that kind of nasty tenacity, grit, and that's really at the center of how we play and how we win. And so he really folds in perfectly to that. And then I think he gives us offensively just another elite playmaker, both on the ball or on the ball in a pick and roll situation, or off the ball as a scorer. So he really just fits us perfectly. He's been a player we've pursued, not just in this trade deadline, but before. We've pursued him aggressively. To finalize the transaction and bring him to the Lakers is really satisfying. I think it's easy to fall into complacency when you win a title, and to just say, hey, let's just run it back. But at the same time, I think my school of thinking is always let's find ways if we can even get better. Every offseason, let's get better. And I think we never want to just settle. And I think this was an opportunity to get better. I think the combination of high IQ players, but that also play with like a tenacity and a high level of confidence and not backing down is kind of the core of the type of players we want to assemble the team with. And that starts obviously with LeBron and Anthony Davis, our two captains last year. They are constantly attracted to players that have that grit and have that nature. And I think we had a roster full of guys like that last season, and want to make sure for the roster that we have for 2021 that thread is relevant there as well.
Now, you'll hear more with Rob in my one-on-one interview later in the show. But, Larry, I want to start with you. From a cap standpoint, the Lakers have Schroder on a one-year deal. What does it mean going forward if they want to re-sign him next season?
One of the nice things about doing trades is that you inherit those bird rights, the ability to exceed the cap to keep the guy. So they're going to have full bird rights to Schroder after this coming season, which means they can max him out. They can give him 5 years. Essentially, they're in the driver's seat. I doubt they're going to give him a max contract, but they can outbid every other team who might be competing for his services. So if he's looking for the best contract, he's going to get it from the Lakers most likely. If he's looking for the team fit, like Rob said, he's a good fit. I mean, Rob has always looked for players who were fighters, who were tenacious, and he got that in Schroder. Plus good shot creation when LeBron's off the floor.
Yeah, Larry, to me, it's the third piece of the offensive puzzle for the Lakers. No more guesswork about who's going to step up every night, scoring-wise, behind LeBron and AD. He probably will be the guy almost every night with the third most points on the team. What did you think of the trade, though, overall?
I liked it a lot. Obviously, Danny Green is a big piece to give up. With AD and with Bron, you want guys who can spread the floor. You want guys who can knock down the three. You want guys who can defend. Danny Green, okay, you could say that it was a little bit of an off year for him, but it was a odd year for everybody. I think that his three-point shooting they're going to miss. His perimeter D is better than Schroder's was, but they got back another facet, and now I assume one of their missions is to go out and find more shooting.
We usually look to Larry for numbers and dollars, but look at him assessing talent. We love it.
He's better than me.
Great
he should be the new
start.
Laker analyst here. I mean, he's
no doubt. Moving on, Anthony Davis won his first NBA title with the Lakers last season. He's now the only player to win an NBA title, an NCAA championship, and FIBA World Cup, and an Olympic gold medal. So what is Anthony Davis doing to get ready for his 9th NBA season with a shortened off season? He discussed it with Yahoo Sports' Chris Haynes.
I mean, I think we did a good job of taking care of the bodies in the bubble. But for me, I'm not going as intense as I would be during the off season. Going every other day while still trying to let the body recover, but still get that work in, knowing that the season, camp starts in 2 weeks. So, I mean, you kind of just right now I'm not sure for everyone else, but for me, it's a lot of more, maintaining, everything that I did in the bubble, kind of maintaining instead of, let's move all this heavy weight and everything like that, because how I usually do it is, maybe 6 weeks of, hard weight training and then kind of scale back 2 weeks before the season. And kind of just, do a lot of body movement things and stuff like that, where you don't have that time here. The time is of the essence right now. So just kind of fluctuate that and trying to experiment with something new and just see how it works.
Without it being official, we can almost guarantee that we're going to see Anthony Davis back in a Lakers uniform.
Oh, yeah.
But Larry, I got to ask you, what are some contract scenarios you can see the Lakers offering AD? What do you think that'll look like?
As much as he wants for as long as he wants is the bottom line, because obviously he is a max player. He is in that middle maximum band, which means he is in that 7 to 9 year range. So his maximum is going to be about $32.75 million. Not a worry whatsoever. He's going to get that salary, the maximum 8% raises. The question is going to be for how many years are they going to sign him? And there's a couple of scenarios. The first scenario I'm going to call the lock it all in scenario. Sign him for 5 years at that, keep him in this contract for a long time. But there's another scenario there, and I call that the get to 10 scenario. Once he gets to 10 years in the league, he is going to qualify for that 10-year maximum salary, which starts about $6 million higher this year. It could go up from there. So if he signs a 2-year deal, gets to his 10th year, becomes a free agent then as a 10-year player locks in a long deal, he's set.
Larry, a lot of people say, okay, maybe he'll do 1 year plus a player option. If you had a bet, do you think he would go for 2 or more years, plus maybe an option on top of that right now?
I'm on the fence right now. I kind of assume that players in that situation, and especially currently, and LeBron was one of the trendsetters for this, they don't necessarily lock in as many years as they possibly can. So he might go for that couple of year scenario. Let's say 2 years plus an option year. He's at 3 years if he wants to stay in. If he wants to opt out after that 2nd year, he can do that. The other factor here is that we could have a new collective bargaining agreement then. Rules could change, and if they change in his favor, that might also affect his decision.
Yeah, and Larry, I'm sure you're watching Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. And you know, when you have a player who's an MVP or first-team All-NBA, AD was first-team All-NBA. What does that mean for him salary-wise? He can also kind of escalate his clauses eventually, can't he?
Yeah, the difference between Giannis and AD, and it's a big difference, AD was traded, which means AD is not eligible for that Supermax, which starts at an even higher salary. He could lock in that 10-year max now. Giannis is eligible for that. So I assume that he's going to lock in a Supermax contract and start at the 10-year max salary, even though he doesn't have 10 years in the league yet.
Good stuff.
But bottom line, remind us again, for however much, for however long? Is that how that went?
That's my expert opinion.
That's why we came to you. Still to come, Rob Pelinka put together.
Great stuff.
Just sitting here. Yeah, that's why he is the salary cap guru. Some more Laker roster news as they head into free agency. This one was tough. The purple and gold made it official that they would be waiving guard Quinn Cook. The now two-time champ played in 44 games last season and averaged over 5 points a game. He was not in the regular rotation in the bubble, only getting into 6 of the Lakers' playoff games. So now the Lakers tweeting a goodbye to both Quinn Cook and Danny Green. LeBron responded saying, would not have won that trophy without them both. Thank you and love. By the way, I'll see y'all in person soon anyways. What does waiving Quinn Cook mean for the Lakers?
Quinn had a $3 million salary, but only $1 million of that was guaranteed. So it means $2 million in the Lakers' coffer that they're not having to give him. So they decided that they would rather have the roster spot. They would rather take that hit on the $1 million not to play than spend the full $3 million on him. And they have a couple of options, too, for what they're going to do with that $1 million. His actual paychecks, they get spread out over 3 years. That happens automatically. But the Lakers could decide whether to what's called stretch that $1 million cap hit, either have it count just this year or have it count $333,000 over 3 years. So it could lower, if they get into the tax this year, it lowers their tax burden. On the other hand, if they get it all done this year, then it lowers any cap number they have next year as well. So they could go either way on this. I'm kind of leaning for them just taking the hit because it's not like they're going to have cap room this year.
Larry, big weekend coming up for the Lakers. Free agency starting on Friday. Now, help us out here. By my math, which is definitely not as good as your math, the Lakers can offer the full mid-level of $9.3 million starting salary next season for a free agent. If they get a little too close to luxury tax apron, though, it's about half that, isn't it? Can you walk us through that? Because it's very important. If they want to go get a guy like Joe Harris or Jeremy Grant, guys who might make more than $9 million, but it certainly sounds more appealing to them than a starting salary of about $5.5 million next season.
Yeah, sure. So the system gets progressively worse on teams the higher up they go. So there's the tax line, and that tax line is going to be about 132 this year. And above that, you're just spending extra money. It's not that bad. But if you get about $6 million above that, it's about 139 this year. You hit what's called the apron. And if you spend above that apron, then you have to you lose some system things. And one of those system things is that full $9 million mid-level exception for 4 years. So that one is reserved for lower spending teams, which means if you use it, you got to be a lower spending team. And they call that in the NBA a hard cap. Once you use that full mid-level, you're hard capped. You can't go above that apron amount of 139. So what teams have instead is what's called the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is a lot lower. It's about $5.7 million. You can only go 3 years for it, but it lets you spend above the apron. So if they're comfortable that their team